So I want you to imagine, if you will, sitting in this, like, sticky-floored movie theater back in the sweltering summer of 2005.
Oh, a great year for cinema, honestly.
Right. But the lights go down, the previews end, and you are immediately thrust into a world of such intense, just unrelenting grime and violence that you instinctively want to take a shower.
Yeah, you feel physically dirty just looking at the screen.
Exactly. You are watching characters commit these unspeakable, sadistic atrocities. I mean, they are serial killers. They are literal monsters.
Unapologetic monsters.
Unapologetic. And yet, by the time the credits roll, an hour and 49 minutes later, you find yourself actually mourning their deaths.
Which is wild.
It is. You find yourself hoping these absolute psychopaths somehow escape the consequences of their actions. It is this masterful, deeply manipulative, cinematic magic trick.
It really is one of the most audacious bait and switches in modern cinema. I mean, you go in expecting a standard slasher and you walk out feeling somehow complicit in the carnage.
Complicit is the perfect word. And speaking of being thrust into uncomfortable, grimy situations where you are forced to question your life choices.
Oh, God, here we go.
Look, if you were listening to this broadcast right now, you might notice a slight dusty echo to our audio.
More than slight, I'd say. I can taste the dust.
Yeah, it's bad. That is because we are currently squatting in the splintered, just horribly claustrophobic confines of a crawl space we have affectionately dubbed Aunt Dolly's attic.
Which is located somewhere in the uncharted, off-the-grid wilderness outside Whitefish, Montana.
Right. And we're only here because our glorious visionary director, that stupid human fuckhead Ryan Thomas, assured us that our beautiful road trip to the salty beaches of Cape May would go off without a hitch.
I genuinely cannot stand that man.
I am mostly just profoundly disappointed. But yeah, a tire blew out on a dirt road in the middle of literal nowhere.
And what did Ryan do? He told us he was going to, quote, go get help. He said, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Famous last words.
That was hours ago. He is currently missing in action. I mean, he just vanished into the Montana tree line like a useless bearded ghost.
He is gone. But there is a silver lining. He did leave behind the production's entire cooler of alcohol.
Which was a phenomenal oversight on his part.
Truly. Because we have already started drinking it. Vigorously, I might add.
Oh, definitely.
Now listen, we will make it to the beaches of Cape May eventually, my sweet prince. Even if we have to put the car in neutral and literally push it all the way to New Jersey.
I am not pushing a car across the country.
Well, if we are going to die up here inhaling 80-year-old insulation and mothballs, we are certainly not doing it sober.
Not a chance in hell. But before the bourbon completely coats the neural pathways in our brains, and before we lose our ability to enunciate complex consonants, we have to do the thing.
The vocal warm-up.
Yes. Ryan's mandatory, director-demanded vocal warm-up. Are you ready?
I hate it, but yes. Let's honor the missing cunt's traditions. 3, 2, 1. Liam Neeson's niece, Lisa Neeson, recently leased a really nice Nissan.
Liam Neeson's niece, Lisa Neeson, recently leased a really nice Nissan.
Flawless.
Flawless execution. All right, the warm-up is done. Welcome, dear listener, to another broadcast of Off the Record. And considering the dusty, oppressive heat of this attic and the sheer, unadulterated cinematic violence we are about to explore from the stack of sources Ryan left for us.
Assuming he ever comes back to collect them.
Right. Well, I have taken the liberty of inventing a subtitle for today's deep dive. I am calling this one Southern Fried Sadism.
Oh, Southern Fried Sadism. I love that. It perfectly captures that sticky, humid, just inescapable dread of the movie we are looking at today.
Thank you. I thought so, too.
So lay out the roadmap for the listener before I open this second bottle. What is the mission today?
Right. So today we are taking a massive deep dive into Rob Zombie's 2005 gritty horror Western opus, The Devil's Rejects. Our mission is to completely tear this film apart and see how it works on like a mechanical and psychological level.
Sounds heavy.
It is. We are going to look at the massive, jarring cinematic shift from Zombie's first film, House of 1,000 Corpses, to this one. We are going to dig into the bizarre, internet-fueled controversies surrounding the film's on-screen sex scenes.
Oh, the Reddit debates.
Oh, yeah, we are getting into that. We'll also examine the original script's scrapped ideas, which honestly would have fundamentally ruined the movie. And finally, we are going to explore the psychological mechanisms of why renowned mainstream critics like Roger Ebert and Quentin Tarantino showered highbrow praise on a movie that is, at its core, about unrepentant serial killers.
Okay, I have to jump in right here. I need to challenge this whole concept from the jump.
Go for it.
Because the very existence of this sequel defies logic. The stylistic whiplash from House of a Thousand Corpses to The Devil's Rejects is arguably one of the most insane pivots in the history of franchise cinema.
It's definitely a hard left turn.
It's more than a left turn. I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses is basically a wacky, neon-drenched Saturday morning cartoon mixed with, like, a heavy metal music video.
Right, it's very stylized.
It has subterranean mutant doctors, black lights, comic book scene transitions, and this totally unhinged funhouse aesthetic. But then you turn on The Devil's Rejects, and suddenly it's a gritty, desaturated, hyper-realistic 1970s true crime documentary.
Yeah, the black lights are completely gone.
Exactly. There are no black lights. There are just sweaty people bleeding in the Texas sun. So was that massive tonal shift actually intentional from day one? Or did Rob Zombie just look at the first movie, cringe, and decide to quietly reboot the whole thing?
Well, according to the sources, it was entirely intentional. But to understand why he did it, we have to look at the underlying economics of the film industry in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Specifically regarding Lionsgate Entertainment.
Oh, right. Lionsgate.
Yeah, the history of House of a Thousand Corpses is notoriously messy. It was originally funded by Universal Pictures, but Universal got completely cold feet. They thought it was too dark, too weird, and they just shelved it. They refused to release it.
Yeah, Lionsgate eventually swooped in, bought the rights, and released it theatrically, right?
Exactly. Lionsgate basically built their entire empire in the 2000s by taking risks on grimy horror that the major studios were terrified of, and the financial return was staggering.
It usually is with low-budget horror.
Right. But despite the production hell, Lionsgate made their entire investment back on the very first day of the firm's theatrical release.
Wow. Day one.
Day one. They were instantly in the black. Now, when a studio sees a return on investment that rapid, they don't politely request a sequel. They demand one, and they demand it immediately.
Sure, you strike while the chainsaw is revving, as they say.
Exactly.
But wait, how does an immediate demand for a sequel translate to completely abandoning the aesthetic that just made you millions of dollars? Usually, studio logic dictates that you just make the exact same movie again, but louder.
That is the standard logic, yes. But Zombie didn't want to be pigeonholed as a funhouse director. He explicitly stated in interviews that he wanted to move entirely away from the cartoonish black comedy tone of the first film.
Okay, so he pitched it differently.
Yeah, he pitched the sequel not as a horror movie, but as a violent western and a road movie. He wanted to capture the death of the 1970s antihero, and the sources point to some very specific, highly regarded cinematic influences that he used to convince the studio.
Like what?
He directly cited Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde from 1967, Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch from 1969, Terrence Malick's Badlands from 1973, and Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974.
Hold on. Stop right there.
What do
Those aren't just influences. Those are foundational pillars of American cinema. I mean, The Wild Bunch revolutionized how violence was depicted on screen. Peckinpah used slow-motion editing and multi-camera setups to make gunfights look like chaotic, bloody ballets.
Right, it was groundbreaking.
And Badlands. That is Terrence Malick. You're talking about sweeping wide shots of the desolate American Midwest, capturing the absolute isolation and remorselessness of two young killers on a spree.
It's very bleak.
It's incredibly bleak. If you combine the relentless, unforgiving violence of The Wild Bunch with the sprawling, empty nihilism of Badlands, you get a very specific cinematic cocktail.
You do.
But taking characters who were essentially playing Looney Tunes villains in the first movie and dropping them into a Terrence Malick landscape, that is a massive risk. Didn't that alienate the core fan base who just wanted more neon mutant doctors?
It absolutely ran that risk, and Zombie knew it. Which brings us to a brilliant piece of trivia from the TV trope source material regarding Dr. Satan.
Ah, Dr. Satan.
You know the lore.
Oh, I know the lore. For the uninitiated listener, Dr. Satan is the main antagonist of the first film. He is this mythical, subterranean, cyborg zombie mutant surgeon who lives in the catacombs under the Firefly family house. He is entirely supernatural.
Right, he is a literal monster. Well, Rob Zombie actually filmed the sequence featuring Dr. Satan for The Devil's Rejects.
Wait, he brought the character back?
He did. Rosario Dawson actually played a nurse in this sequence. They built the sets, they did the practical effects, they spent the money, and they shot it. But when Zombie sat down in the editing room and started assembling the film, he cut the entire sequence.
You're kidding. Completely removed it.
Completely removed it.
But wouldn't that piss off the studio? I mean, you just spent a chunk of the budget on a fan-favorite character and a major cameo with Rosario Dawson, and you just dump it on the cutting room floor.
It's a massive financial risk to do that, yeah. But Zombie realized it was a creative necessity. He looked at the footage of this grounded, gritty 1970s road movie, which is heavily relying on the hyper-realistic tone of the Wild Bunch. And he saw that cutting to a cyborg mutant performing underground surgery completely shattered the reality he had built.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. In his own words, he said, adding Dr. Satan to the Devil's Rejects would be like putting Chewbacca in the Wild Bunch.
Okay, putting Chewbacca in the Wild Bunch is an incredible analogy.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does, because you cannot have a high-stakes, realistic shootout with the Texas State Police, with bullets shattering glass and characters bleeding out, and then suddenly hard cut to a comic book mutant with a mechanical claw. The audience's suspension of disbelief would snap instantly.
Exactly. They would completely reject the emotional stakes of the film.
It is a massive testament to Zombie's restraint as a director. It is incredibly hard to kill your darlings, especially when your darling is a fan-favorite monster that helped launch your film career. Yeah. But protecting the tone of the movie was more important than fan service.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the actors felt that tonal shift deeply, too. Shiri Moon Zombie, who plays Baby Firefly, is on record stating that she doesn't even view The Devil's Rejects as a traditional sequel.
Really? How does she view it?
In her mind, she isn't playing the exact same character from the first film. She sees it as taking the loose archetypes from that first Funhouse movie and dropping them into an entirely new, grounded universe to see how they would operate. It's an evolution.
Which is fascinating, because even with all that grounding in reality, Zombie still kept some of the deep, weirdly absurd lore from the first movie intact.
Like what?
Specifically, the names, which I want to talk about because it's such a bizarre contrast to the violence.
Yes. The themed aliases trope. This is where it gets really interesting for the film historians and the nerds in the audience. The entire Firefly family is operating under assumed names, and every single one of them is named after a character played by Groucho Marx in classic 1930s cinema.
It is so wildly specific.
It really is. Captain Spaulding, the patriarch of the family, is named after Groucho's character in the 1930 film Animal Crackers.
Right.
Otis B. Driftwood is Groucho's character from the 1935 film A Night at the Opera. Rufus T. Firefly, which is where they get their family name, is from the 1933 masterpiece Duck Soup. And in the wider lore, you also have Hugo Hackenbush and Emmanuel Ravelli.
What I love about this is the psychological profile it creates for these killers. You have a family of backwoods, sadistic, rural murderers, but they aren't just uneducated hillbillies.
Far from it.
Right. They are essentially running around the American South, engaging in high-level classic cinema cosplay. It implies a level of intelligence, or at least a highly specific obsession with media, that makes them feel much more calculating.
It gives them texture. And Rob Zombie doesn't just leave it as an Easter egg for the audience. He builds a brilliant in-universe joke around it. Because the police eventually catch on to the fact that these aliases are connected, Sheriff Swidell brings in a film historian to help with the case.
Oh, the guy in the police station.
Yes. There is a whole scene featuring this Marx Brothers expert named Marty Walker. He's sitting there surrounded by hardened Texas Rangers, supposedly helping them track down these mass murderers.
And he's just completely useless, right?
Completely. He gets completely sidetracked into a petty fandom rivalry. He starts complaining bitterly that Elvis Presley's death unfairly knocked Groucho Marx's death off the front pages of the newspapers because they both died within 3 days of each other in August of 1977.
That detail is so rich. It tells the listener, yes, this world contains brutal, unforgiving violence, but it also contains annoying film snobs who care entirely too much about historical newspaper layouts.
It creates a living, breathing world.
It really does. But listen, to make characters like Otis and Baby function in a world that feels that real, the script had to undergo some massive foundational changes. Because you can't just take cartoon characters, slap Groucho Marx names on them, and expect them to carry a heavy drama.
Very true.
I'm going to pour us another drink while you get into this, by the way. The dust in this attic is severely parching my throat, and I am starting to resent Ryan's existence on a molecular level.
Please do. Make it a heavy pour. That worthless asshat is definitely sitting in a diner somewhere ignoring our texts.
Oh, absolutely. He's probably eating pie.
So let's look at the evolution of the script. The original draft of this movie was vastly different from the theatrical cut. A user on Reddit actually managed to track down and analyze Rob Zombie's original rough draft, and the differences highlight exactly how this movie was saved during the rewriting and editing process.
I always love looking at early drafts because it shows you the traps a writer almost fell into. What was the biggest trap in the original script?
The primary antagonist, Sheriff John Quincy Wydell, played with absolute terrifying brilliance by William Forsythe.
Oh, he's so good in this.
He's amazing. In the final film, Wydell is a highly grounded, terrifyingly focused hard-ass. He is a man who is driven slowly and methodically to total insanity by the grief of losing his brother George, who was murdered by the Firefly family in the first movie.
Right, the revenge arc.
Exactly. Forsythe famously based his performance on legendary, quiet, tough guys like Lee Marvin and Robert Shaw.
Robert Shaw, like Quint from Jaws, that simmering, quiet, thousand-yard stare menace, the guy who doesn't need to yell to let you know he's going to kill you.
Precisely. But in the original script, Wydell was written as a massive caricature of a religious nut. He was constantly spouting biblical doom, screaming about hellfire, and quoting scripture in almost every single line of dialogue. He was a flat, one-dimensional religious zealot.
Oh, thank God they changed that. That would have been insufferable.
Why? What doesn't work about that for you?
Because it's the cheapest horror movie cliche in the book. The crazy Southern cop screaming about the Book of Revelations is a trope we've seen a million times. It's lazy writing.
You're not wrong.
By stripping all the overt religious mania away, they made him profoundly more dangerous. If a guy is just quoting the Bible, you write him off as crazy. But if a grieving brother decides that the judicial system is inadequate and he consciously, quietly decides to become a monster himself to balance the scales, that is a character arc.
It's much more chilling.
Exactly. It's a descent into darkness that the audience can actually track and understand.
It makes his sadism in the third act feel earned, rather than just being a symptom of religious mania. He isn't torturing them because God told him to. He's torturing them because they hurt his family, and he wants them to hurt back. It grounds his evil in a very human emotion, grief.
Which is so much better.
But the changes to the Firefly family in that original script were even more drastic. Let's talk about Baby's backstory.
Okay, this detail in our notes blew my mind. The script originally revealed that Baby was not a biological member of the Firefly family at all.
Right. In the scrap draft, there's a sequence where a television news report reveals that Baby was actually kidnapped as a young child.
Kidnapped?
Yeah. She was taken from a grocery store during a robbery committed by Otis and Captain Spaulding years ago. In the script, Baby hears this news report on the television, mutters the word bullshit, and then the movie just moves on. It's never brought up again.
Which is an insane bombshell to just drop in the middle of a narrative and walk away from. From a screenwriting perspective, that is cardinal sin. You cannot introduce a fundamental identity shift for one of your main characters and then refuse to explore the psychological fallout of it. I am so glad Zombie cut that entirely.
Why do you think it would have damaged the film so much, beyond just being an unresolved plot thread?
Because the emotional climax of the final film relies entirely on the deep, twisted, but genuinely real familial bond between Captain Spaulding and Baby. He is her father, Otis is her brother. Their loyalty to each other is the only redeeming quality they possess.
Right, it's the core of their humanity.
Exactly. If you reveal that Spaulding actually stole her from a Piggly Wiggly when she was a toddler, it completely undercuts the even evil has loved ones trope. It turns Spaulding from a twisted patriarch into just another child abductor. It dilutes the familial theme that the whole third act hinges on.
That is a phenomenal read on the familial dynamics, and it ties directly into the most crucial difference between the original script and the final cut. The torture scenes. This is the change that objectively saved the movie.
You mean the basement scene?
Yes. In the third act, Sheriff Wydell finally captures the family. He locks them in their own basement, and he proceeds to torture them.
It's brutal.
In the theatrical cut we all saw, the family is genuinely terrified. They're bleeding, they're weeping, they're screaming in unimaginable pain. Captain Spaulding actually begs for his daughter's life. It is deeply uncomfortable to watch. But in the original script, they didn't seem scared at all.
They just took the punishment, like stoic action heroes.
Worse than that, they actively enjoyed it. In the original draft, when Wydell takes a staple gun and starts stapling crime scene photos of their victims to Baby's bare stomach, she doesn't scream in agony. She gets off on it.
Wait, what?
She fakes an orgasm just to mock him. And Spaulding never tries to distract Wydell to save her. He just sits there, completely unbothered.
Okay, we need to completely unpack the psychology of this, because if Rob Zombie had filmed that original script, The emotional core of the movie ceases to exist. Think about it like professional wrestling.
Wrestling. I'm not following. Connect the dots for me, Pookie.
Okay, stay with me. In professional wrestling, the concept of selling a move is the most important part of the match. If the bad guy, the heel, gets hit in the head with a steel chair, he has to fall down. He has to bleed. He has to writhe in pain. He has to show the audience that he is hurt.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right. If he gets hit with a chair and just stands there smiling, the audience cannot connect to the match. The stakes vanish. The illusion of reality is broken. We need to see the monsters bleed to understand the gravity of the situation.
Ah, I see. By refusing to show pain, they refuse to be human.
Exactly. Why are vulnerable monsters scarier and more engaging than unfeeling Terminators? Because vulnerability implies humanity. When you see baby crying in pure terror as Wydell drives a rusty nail through her hand, your brain experiences severe cognitive dissonance.
Because you know she deserves it.
Yes, on a logical level, you know she is a sadistic murderer who deserves to be punished. But on a biological, emotional level, you are watching a human being suffer. Empathy is an involuntary human reflex. Mirror neurons in our brain fire when we see someone in pain.
So Zombie weaponizes our own empathy against us.
Yes. If she fakes an orgasm while being stapled, she is no longer a human being. She's an alien. She's a demon. And you cannot empathize with a demon. The final cut of the film forces you to feel pity for monsters, which is a profoundly uncomfortable and brilliant cinematic trick. It makes the audience complicit.
Complicit is the perfect word. We are watching a supposedly righteous cop do horrific things, and because the villains are crying like wounded animals, we actually start rooting for the serial killers to escape. It flips the moral axis of the film entirely. It is masterful.
It really is.
And speaking of things that make people deeply uncomfortable, I really think it's time we move into the murkiest waters of this entire deep dive.
Oh boy, I am pouring a very heavy pour for this next section. Cheers, baby girl.
Cheers, Captain Handsome. We need the liquid courage, because we are diving headfirst into the heavily debated, wildly conspiratorial world of early 2000s movie magic, courtesy of the lovely sleuths on Reddit. We need to talk about the opening sequence of the film and the grand debate. Was the sex real?
Here is where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean totally unhinged.
Truly unhinged.
The movie opens with a very grimy, very explicit dream sequence. Captain Spaulding, played by the late, great Sid Haig, is having this sweaty, visceral, highly realistic sex scene with a woman in a motel room. And the internet, because the internet refuses to let anything just be a movie, has spent years arguing over whether or not they actually did the deed on camera.
To set the stage, the woman in that scene was played by Ginger Lynn, who was an incredibly famous ex-porn star from the 1980s. Her casting alone added a meta layer of sleaze and authenticity to the era Zombie was trying to capture.
Oh, absolutely.
And just as a phenomenal piece of behind-the-scenes production trivia, she actually had a broken leg during the filming of that intense, grinding sex scene.
A broken leg? Are you serious?
Completely serious. They had to carefully block the camera angles and hide her cast on the far side of the bed so it wouldn't be visible in the shot.
The dedication to the craft is unparalleled. So Ginger Lynn is grinding away with a broken femur. Sid Haig is looking appropriately deranged with his rotting teeth. And the scene looks so incredibly, uncomfortably real that a massive conspiracy theory sprung up around it. I have the Reddit thread right here in our notes, and I have to read this user's argument because the misplaced confidence is staggering.
Let's hear the conspiracy. I love a good Reddit theory.
This user vehemently claimed that the sex was 100% real, their evidence. They cited the DVD commentary, claiming that actors talked about it casually. They cited Richard Brake's comments about fulfilling teenage dreams in Rob Zombie's later movie, 31.
Okay, weak evidence so far.
They cited Rob Zombie's well-documented love for gritty, boundary-pushing realism. And my absolute favorite part of the argument, the linchpin of their entire thesis, they compared it to the movie Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Wait, pause. How does a stoner comedy about a fast food hamburger joint factor into a debate about simulated intercourse in a horror film?
I am so glad you asked. The user stated, and I quote, "Unrelated fun fact, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle was filmed in Canada. The weed they smoked was real. That was in the special features. I bought Devil's Rejects and Harold and Kumar when they came out. Watch out for the Mandela effect." End quote.
I'm losing my mind.
They literally argued that because John Cho and Kal Penn supposedly smoked real marijuana on a Canadian film set, Sid Haig and Ginger Lynn must have had actual unsimulated intercourse on a major studio release funded by Lionsgate. The logic is flawless, Pookie. It is airtight.
It is the absolute pinnacle of internet reasoning. The confidence exceeds the evidence by several light years. Because, let's look at the actual reality of film production. It isn't just two people in a room. There are 40 crew members holding boom mics and bounce boards.
Right, it's crowded.
Several sane users quickly stepped into the thread to debunk this wild theory. As one user bluntly put it, the production followed standard softcore protocol. When filming these highly realistic scenes, the actors are heavily protected. The wardrobe department utilizes garments colloquially known in the industry as a cocksock or a boner strap.
A boner strap. I am trying to maintain my journalistic professionalism, I really am, but the phrase boner strap echoing in this dusty attic is threatening to break my composure.
Hold it together, sunshine. The mechanical reality is that she was grinding on his heavily covered, secured genitals. What the camera caught was careful blocking, strategic lighting, and perhaps some prosthetic enhancement.
Definitely some prosthetics.
But beyond the physical logistics of the wardrobe department, there is a massive, unignorable, legal and economic roadblock to putting real sex on screen. And that is the MPAA guidelines.
Yes, this is the most crucial point. Another user correctly pointed out that if a major theatrical release depicts actual unsimulated penetration, it is immediately slapped with an NC-17 rating by the Motion Picture Association.
And why is an NC-17 rating such a big deal? Explain the mechanism of that for the listener who might just think it's an age restriction.
It is a financial death sentence for a film. You cannot get an R rating with actual penetration. If you get an NC-17, the vast majority of major multiplex theater chains in the United States, like AMC or Regal, have corporate policies strictly prohibiting them from screening the film.
So you lose distribution.
You lose thousands of screens instantly. Furthermore, back in 2005, physical media was king. Blockbuster Video and Walmart had strict moral clauses. They refused to stock or rent NC-17 movies. So if Rob Zombie included real sex, Lionsgate would have lost their theatrical revenue and their DVD revenue. A multi-million-dollar studio is not going to commit corporate suicide just for 5 seconds of realism in an opening montage.
Exactly. The economics of film distribution make it literally impossible. And if the corporate logic wasn't enough to debunk it, Sid Haig himself shut it down.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, a fan noted that in the actual DVD commentary, Sid Haig explicitly talked about how they had to make absolutely sure the scene was entirely simulated. Because if it wasn't, he noted it would be a, quote, very different kind of movie.
I'm laughing so hard right now because further down in that exact same thread, a user suggested that instead of arguing about it, the original poster should just channel Sid Haig's spirit via a seance to ask him directly.
The seance.
Yes, imagine being a medium. You lower the lights in a parlor, you join hands, you summon the ghost of a beloved, classically trained character actor from the great beyond. The temperature drops. The table starts shaking. Sid Haig's voice echoes from the ether, and you ask him, "Hey man, did you use a boner strap in The Devil's Rejects?"
Oh my God.
He would be so mad, he would haunt your house forever.
The sheer indignity of it. But honestly, that debate is a massive compliment to Rob Zombie's direction and the commitment of the actors. They sold a grimy, sweaty, mechanically simulated moment so incredibly well that over a decade later, people are typing angry, multi-paragraph essays on the internet swearing it was genuine.
That is the ultimate power of cinema, my chaotic angel.
Yeah.
You make the fake look real. Now hold that thought. Wait, give me a second. I need to focus.
What's wrong? Is it the dust?
No, the alcohol is definitely starting to coat the wires in my brain, but I just remembered Kelly's note. I cannot forget Ryan's mandate. We have to do the YouTube plug. If we don't do it, Kelly will be furious with us.
Oh, right. The plug, deep breaths. Just read the words on the page. I will pour you another drink as a reward when you finish. And Kelly, if you're listening to this audio file back in the air-conditioned studio, make sure he sounds good. Fix his slurring in post.
I am not slurring. Okay, here we go. We have plenty of other deep dives to check out. Fascinating topics like NPD, EMDR, the autophylatic lifestyle, and Shrek, as well as original, never-before-seen short stories. Like Self-Portrait, the one-man show about the Colombian immigrant obsessed with his stepmom, The Girl Who Argued Gravity, a screenplay called Definitely about a fat guy who farts while pushing shopping carts. Wait, no. Carts. Shopping carts. The 22-year-old girl who keeps a spreadsheet of all her kisses. And the horror spec about the church lock-in where the kids start mutilating themselves. Spirit Night. Like and subscribe now. YouTube.com at HAM-OTR. Thanks for listening.
Nailed it. Mostly. Shout out to Kelly McKinley, our brilliant new 22-year-old intern. She's a good girl, sitting safely back in the studio, keeping the audio rolling while we slowly lose our minds and our hydration in a sweltering Montana attic. We appreciate you, Kelly.
We really, really do. Okay, where were we? The drinks are absolutely kicking in now. My face feels warm. I am feeling
We
emotional.
were talking about fake sex.
Right. But the genius of that opening sex scene is that it primes the audience, right? It makes us accept a gritty reality. And because we believe the grime of that motel room, we are completely undefended when the movie abruptly transitions into hyper-realistic, unwatchable violence.
That is a perfect transition.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about the actual violence of the film and the core thematic dilemma that makes The Devil's Rejects such a difficult, brilliant, and polarizing piece of art. The evil versus evil trope.
It is a complete moral vacuum.
Entirely. You are dealing with a narrative structure
Yeah.
that gives the audience absolutely no safe harbor. The protagonists, the people the camera follows, the people whose jokes we laugh at, the people we are structurally asked to root for, are vicious, sadistic serial killers with over 75 homicides to their name.
75.
And the antagonist, the person trying to stop them, is Sheriff Wydell, a religiously fanatical rabid cop who is perfectly willing to bypass all laws and human decency for personal vengeance. There is no hero in this movie. None.
None at all. And nowhere is that moral vacuum more devastating, more deeply upsetting than the Kahiki Palms motel scene. God, this scene physically upsets me every time I think about it. It is so brutal.
The sequence with the fake country band, Banjo and Sullivan?
Yes. And just as a quick side note to lighten the mood for a half second, the music for that fake band was actually provided by real-life country artist Jesse Dayton, which is a very cool detail.
It is a cool detour.
But what happens to those musicians in that motel room is, well, it is pure trauma. They are entirely innocent people. They aren't doing anything wrong. They just happen to cross paths with Otis and Baby, and they are subjected to unimaginable psychological and physical torture.
And it is mathematically constructed by Zombie's script to be as horrific as possible. There is a deeply dark piece of cinematic foreshadowing that connects the dots here, and it makes the violence feel deeply personal.
The foreshadowing with the wife, right?
Yes. Early in the film, before the terror starts, Zombie shows us the band hanging out in a van laughing. They're telling a funny, endearing story about Gloria, one of the wives. They're joking about a time she was riding a mechanical bull at a bar and her top accidentally fell off, exposing her to the crowd. It's a lighthearted, mildly embarrassing, very human memory.
Right. It establishes them as normal people who love each other.
And then later, in the motel room, Otis weaponizes that vulnerability. He subjects her to a shameful strip. He forces her to undress at gunpoint. And then he rapes her with the barrel of his gun right in front of her tied-up husband, who is forced to watch.
It is incredibly fucked up. It is so genuinely hard to watch. Otis is just a sick cunt for doing that.
He is. And what's crucial from a cinematic perspective is that there is no humor in this scene. There is no camp. There are no black lights. It is just raw, ugly, degrading violence against an innocent woman. It violently strips away any illusion the audience might have had that these characters are just cool anti-heroes. They are not cool. They are monsters.
And this leads into a really fascinating theory I saw on Reddit while I was prepping for this, which completely recontextualizes the movie. One user asked a brilliant structural question. Is The Devil's Rejects even a horror movie?
What else would it be? It has serial killers, gore, and torture.
Yes, but look at the structure. They argued that it plays out much more like an action movie or a gritty crime thriller, told entirely from the killer's perspective, where the victims just have an incredibly high turnover rate.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Think about it. In a traditional horror movie, you have a final girl or a core group of survivors that the camera follows. The narrative tension comes from asking, will the innocent people survive? But here, the innocent victims are introduced and slaughtered in 10 minutes. The narrative tension comes from asking, will the killers evade the police?
That is a staggering subversion of the genre, because by framing it that way, Rob Zombie forces the audience to do the unthinkable. You bond with the killers. A Redditor perfectly encapsulated this psychological trap. This is you bond with them over ice cream.
Yes, the Tutti Frutti scene.
They are referencing that famous scene where Otis goes to a roadside stand to get Tutti Frutti ice cream. He interacts with the kid, and he looks at the kid and delivers that incredible, menacing line, "There is no fucking ice cream in your future."
Oh my God, yes. You are laughing with Otis in that scene. You are literally eating ice cream with him. It is exactly like having a pet tiger.
A pet tiger. Wait. I love when you get metaphorically abstract.
No.
Walk me through the tiger logic, Pumpkin.
Listen to me. The logic holds up. You get a pet tiger. You love the tiger. It's majestic, it's funny, it's beautiful to look at. You feed it ice cream, you play with it in the yard, you think it's your best friend.
Okay, tracking so far.
But then, one day, the tiger gets out of the yard and it bites the neighbor's face completely off. And the neighbor is screaming and there's blood everywhere and you are horrified. But you can't be mad at the tiger because it's a tiger. It is in its biological nature to rip faces off. We look at Otis and Baby and we love them when they're eating ice cream and cracking jokes in the car, but we are shocked and horrified when they rape and murder the band. But they are tigers. They are doing what they were built to do. We are the idiots for thinking we could just enjoy the ice cream and ignore the claws.
That actually makes a frightening amount of sense.
Yeah.
You're completely right. We, as an audience trained by Hollywood, project our own desire for a traditional, redeemable anti-hero onto them. We want them to be Han Solo. But Zombie refuses to sanitize their nature. They bite the neighbor's face off every single time.
Every time.
And yet, despite that, despite the unwatchable violence, the moral vacuum, and the vile nature of the protagonists, this movie received some staggering critical acclaim, which is wild when you consider how thoroughly sleazy it is.
My professionalism is officially collapsing. My brain is buzzing.
But yes.
The critical acclaim. Who in a million years would have thought the guy who made a music video movie about clown makeup and necrophilia would win over the cinematic elite?
Let's start with the undisputed king of film criticism himself, Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert historically despised slasher films. He famously hated Friday the 13th. But he gave The Devil's Rejects 3 out of 4 stars.
Roger Ebert liked it. Explain the mechanism of that. Why did he like this but hate other slashers?
He praised the writing and the acting, specifically because he felt the film had a distinct point of view. He actually used it as a metric for quality later on in his career. When he reviewed the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, he compared it unfavorably to The Devil's Rejects.
Really? That's a high compliment.
Yeah, Ebert said the Zombies film desired to entertain the audience, not just to sicken them. He argued that Zombies killers had actual personalities, histories, and motives, whereas other horror films just relied on empty mechanical gore to get a reaction.
That is massive validation. If Ebert says your serial killers have psychological depth, you have succeeded as a filmmaker.
And it wasn't just Ebert. Quentin Tarantino, who knows a thing or two about 1970s exploitation cinema, put The Devil's Rejects on his official list of the top 20 films of the 21st century.
No way. Tarantino.
Yes. And Stephen King, the master of horror himself, named it his 9th best film of the entire year of 2005. King compared its C-grade, cheesy 70s glow to Tarantino's Kill Bill.
Tarantino and Stephen King bowing down to Rob Zombie. What a timeline. But they couldn't all have loved it. There had to be haters. The internet is built on haters. Criticism requires friction.
Oh, the haters were incredibly loud.
Yeah.
James Barnelli, a very prominent and respected film critic, absolutely despised it. He gave it half a star out of 4.
Half a star.
He called it a, quote, vile, reprehensible movie. He said the dialogue was just an overripe pastiche of 1970s exploitation tropes. He basically said the movie had no redeeming qualities, no artistic merit, and was a cataclysmic misfire of cinema.
Well, fuck James Barnelli.
Let it out. Tell him why he's wrong.
He doesn't understand the vision. He doesn't get the gritty homage. Why do critics constantly dismiss the horror genre? There is such an inherent bias against horror. Rob Zombie poured his bloody, passionate heart out onto that celluloid.
He really did.
He gave us Sid Haig in filthy underwear. He gave us profound meditation on the nature of evil and audience complicity. And Berardinelli sits in his ivory tower and calls it vile. Of course it's vile. That's the entire point, you pretentious asshat. If you aren't repulsed, the movie isn't working.
You are preaching to the choir, baby girl. Berardinelli probably wanted a nice, clean, sanitized studio movie where the good guy wins and everyone learns a heartwarming lesson about friendship. But Zombie gave us the truth. The ugly, dusty, blood-soaked truth. The tiger bites the face, James. The tiger bites the face.
What tiger? Yes. Oh, wait, shit. I just knocked my cup over.
Oh, careful.
Hang on. I am spilling Ryan's very expensive bourbon all over the insulation. Let me just wipe that with my sleeve. Okay. Reset. I am taking a deep breath. We need to reset the broadcast. We are professionals. We are doing a deep dive. Focus. Let's talk about the ending, the grand finale.
Right, the ending, which is arguably one of the most iconic, unforgettable conclusions in modern horror history. The soundtrack dissonance here is absolutely legendary.
It's so good.
You have Baby, Otis, and Captain Spaulding bleeding to death from various gunshot and stab wounds, driving a stolen 1972 Cadillac Eldorado convertible down a long stretch of dusty Texas highway. And they were driving straight toward a massive, heavily armed police barricade. And what song plays over this slow-motion ride to hell?
Lynyrd Skynyrd's Freebird.
Yes, the ultimate 1970s Southern rock anthem. The song starts slow, the lyrics hit, "If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me?" And then the guitars start to scream.
Chills. Literal chills.
The rejects realize they are trapped, they look at each other, they raise their weapons, and they drive directly into a massive hail of gunfire. It was this bizarre, beautiful, deeply unsettling moment where Rob Zombie manages to wedge the bloody slow-motion shootout of the Wild Bunch together with the tragic, defiant cliff dive of Thelma and Louise.
It is cinematic perfection. It genuinely brings a tear to my eye. It is the perfect encapsulation of the era. But the internet ruins everything, doesn't it? We can't just have a beautiful moment.
Always. What did the internet do this time?
I found a rant on Reddit from a guy I can only describe as a hyper-fixated medical nerd, and he was, quote, frustrated the fuck out by the ending. He completely dismantled the biological realism of their survival leading up to that final shootout.
Oh, this should be good. Let's hear the medical diagnosis of the Devil's Rejects. Break down the biology for us.
Okay, so first, the fire. Earlier in the climax, Wydell nails Otis to a chair, ties the others up, and sets the house on fire. Tiny, the giant deformed brother, shows up at the last second and saves them.
Right, he pulls them out.
But this Reddit nerd points out that Tiny lacked basic manual dexterity. He had massive, severely deformed hands. How did he untie complex knots and pull heavy iron nails out of solid wood in a matter of seconds inside a raging inferno?
Huh. Good question.
The nerd argues that even if Tiny somehow got them loose, the physics of a house fire dictate that they all would have died of smoke inhalation before reaching the door. Fires consume oxygen incredibly fast.
Okay, from a purely scientific standpoint, that is a fair point about the smoke.
Uh.
Carbon monoxide poisoning happens in seconds.
But wait, it gets better. He breaks down the ballistics of the final shootout. As they drive toward the barricade, Zombie uses slow motion to show us the bullet impacts. The nerd points out that Captain Spaulding and Baby both take high-velocity rifle shots directly to the center of the chest, specifically right where the aorta is located.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
He says, and I quote, "You do not survive that. Even uninjured and in peak physical condition, an aortic rupture is fatal. They would have dropped dead instantly."
The aorta is kind of important for maintaining blood pressure, yes.
And his final crowning argument: even if, by some absolute miracle of biology, they survived the fire, the lack of oxygen, and the aortic rifle shots, Sheriff Wydell beat them so brutally in the basement with a cattle prod in his bare fist that they would all be permanently disfigured and severely brain damaged.
They did take a massive beating.
Right. They wouldn't be having a cool, slow-motion wind in their hair drive. They would be in comas. And to top it all off, he adds, since they are in Texas, you get the death penalty there for farting in church. So even if they lived, they would have fried in the electric chair anyway.
I mean, the nerd is not wrong. Logically, biologically, legally, he is 100% correct.
It frustrates the fuck out of him. He cannot handle the medical inaccuracies.
But he is completely missing the thematic point. He is applying real-world medical science to a movie literally called The Devil's Rejects. And this is exactly where the canon debate comes in. Many fans, and even the film's title, imply a supernatural theory that explains all of this.
Wait, supernatural?
Yes. Why didn't they die from the smoke? Why didn't the high-velocity aorta shots kill them instantly? Because they are the Devil's Rejects. The theory is that they are so evil, so thoroughly corrupted, that hell itself refuses to take them. They are rejected by the afterlife, so they are cursed to survive unimaginable punishment on Earth.
Yes. They are immortal meat sacks of pure malice. Hell looked at their resume and said, no thank you, we're at capacity, return to sender.
Exactly. The ending of that movie was a perfect, ambiguous, bloody masterpiece. They go out in a blaze of glory. Which is why I loudly and proudly proclaim that the 2019 sequel, 3 from Hell, is absolute garbage.
Tell them, scream it from the attic so the bears can hear you.
It is a fever dream.
Yeah.
It is bad fan fiction. Rob Zombie had a perfect ending, a flawless cinematic full stop, and 14 years later he brings them back and says, oh, actually, they just went to the hospital, had a bunch of surgeries, and got better.
They just got better. From a ruptured aorta.
No, I refuse. I demand that every listener of this deep dive mentally decanonize 3 from Hell. It does not exist. They died in that car, bleeding out, listening to Freebird, just like God and Roger Ebert intended.
I am getting so emotional right now. You are so right. They died in that car. It was beautiful, just like Matthew McGrory died.
Oh, sweetheart, no. Don't do this. You're getting the sad, drunk tears.
I can't help it. Matthew McGrory played Tiny Firefly. He was the giant. He saved them from the burning house. And he died in real life the exact same year the film came out, 2005. He was only 32 years old. Heart
I
failure.
know, baby girl, it's tragic.
And Rob Zombie dedicated the DVD release to his loving memory. It's just, life is so fleeting, you know? We are all just driving toward a barricade. Tiny is gone. Sid Haig is gone. We're sitting in an attic drinking warm bourbon. What if Ryan isn't coming back? What if Ryan blew the tire, walked down the highway, and he's dead in a ditch somewhere? What if the bears got him?
Hey, look at me. Look at my eyes. The bears did not get Ryan. Ryan is a stupid human shit. He is a coward. He probably walked 2 miles, found a diner with air conditioning, and is currently eating a cheeseburger while we rot up here. He is not dead. He's just an asshat.
You think he's eating a burger? Without us? That fucker.
I guarantee it. Now, dry your eyes. We have a show to finish. We have to leave the listener with something to chew on. Give them something profound to take away from all this sadism.
You're right. You're right. Okay, bring it home. Give us the final thought.
We talked a lot today about the morality of this film, the cognitive dissonance and the evil of these characters. And I want to leave you, the listener, with this thought to mull over. Throughout the movie, Otis B. Driftwood looks directly into the eyes of his victims and says, "I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work."
Such a chilling line.
He owns his evil. He is proud of it. But think about Sheriff Wydell. Wydell is a man sworn to uphold the law. He is a badge-wearing instrument of justice. But to stop the Firefly family, Wydell completely abandons the law. He resorts to kidnapping. He resorts to illegal sadistic torture. He burns a house down with people nailed to chairs inside. So ask yourself this. If a righteous man has to become a monster to kill a monster, doesn't that mean Otis actually won? Did Otis force a righteous man to do the devil's work for him?
Oh my God, that is heavy. He corrupted the cop. He infected him with the sadism. He made the cop do the devil's work. Wow. I am deeply affected by that. My brain is officially full and my glass is officially empty.
We did it, Pookie. We survived another deep dive.
We did, superstar. We really did. Listener, thank you for joining us in Aunt Jolly's Attic. We are going to sign off now. We are going to sit in the dark and we are going to keep drinking Ryan's booze until we either die of dehydration in this insulation or we finally make it to the beautiful sandy beaches of Cape May. Whatever you are, stay safe, stay away from clown makeup, and stay off the record. Good night.